Listen, there's a moment that happens before every crisis that nobody talks about. You're standing in a supermarket and something is wrong. Maybe it's the news crawler on your phone. Maybe it's the convoy of trucks you saw heading out of town. Maybe it's just the way the manager is looking at the security gates. Your heart is hammering. You've got one shot at this. One cart, one credit limit, one narrow window before the registers go dark. And everyone around you is about to realize what you already know. So you start grabbing, fast, decisively. You fill that cart like your life depends on it, because it does. You get home, lock the door, and exhale. You did it. You prepared. Except, here's the thing. You probably just made mistakes that could kill you. Not because you didn't buy enough, but because you bought wrong. And in the 72 hours to 30 days that follow, those mistakes won't just inconvenience you. They'll break you. I'm going to walk you through the real mistakes, not the ones prepper forums obsess over, the ones that actually separate people who make it 30 days from people who mentally collapse in 10. The ones I've made, the ones I've watched others make, the ones that sound harmless until you're living with the consequences in a house with no power, no water pressure, and no way out. Survival isn't about the first 3 days. Any idiot can white-knuckle through a long weekend. It's about week 2, when the adrenaline is gone and reality sets in. It's about week 3, when the boredom and filth start to crack you. And it's about the moment you realize the cart you panic-filled is now the source of new problems you never saw coming. The most seductive line to store is the bulk aisle. 50-pound bags of rice, bins of dried beans, pallets of wheat berries. Your brain lights up. Calories per dollar. Shelf life measured in decades. So you load up on foods you've never cooked regularly, grains you've barely tasted, beans your gut has never processed in volume. You stack them like you just won the apocalypse. 3 weeks later, the power's out for 5 days. You're genuinely hungry. You cook those beans on a camp stove you're still clumsy with. They taste like cardboard soaked in disappointment. Your stomach revolts. Nausea, cramps, weakness. Here's what's happening. Your gut microbiome is a specialized ecosystem that adapts slowly to new food sources. When you flood it with high-fiber legumes it's never processed, the bacteria that break down those complex carbohydrates don't exist in sufficient numbers. The result is incomplete digestion, inflammation, and genuine malabsorption of nutrients. You're eating calories, but your body can't extract them efficiently. Worse, your partner won't eat it. In high-stress situations, the brain doesn't want nutrition. It wants comfort. When cortisol floods your system during crisis, it suppresses the parts of your prefrontal cortex responsible for trying new things. Your brain is running survival firmware that says, stick with what you know works. You just spent $300 creating a secondary crisis in your own home. The nausea doesn't just pass. Day after day, you force down food that makes you feel worse. Your body associates eating with discomfort. You start rationing not from scarcity, but from dread of the next meal. Your partner grows quieter, more withdrawn. The small arguments about portions turn vicious because you're both experiencing what researchers call hangry. When blood glucose drops and stays low, it impairs the prefrontal cortex's ability to regulate emotions. You're literally less capable of empathy and patience when you need them most. The silence between you grows heavier than any sack of beans, each unspoken accusation louder than the generator you never bought. I learned this the hard way in 2020 with 30 pounds of chickpeas I'd only eaten as hummus. By week 2, my household was coming apart, not from starvation, but from the psychological misery of food our bodies rejected. Never stockpile food you haven't eaten regularly for at least a month, 3 times a week minimum. Your gut needs time to build the right bacterial populations. Your psychology needs to encode these foods as safe. That adaptation doesn't happen under crisis stress. Venezuelans who survived their collapse didn't live on bulk wheat they'd never prepared. They stretched foods they'd eaten their entire lives. Rice and beans they knew how to cook, recognizable even when portions were thin. Let's say you're smarter. You've seen the footage, so you grab every case of bottled water you can fit. 24 packs, 36 packs. You're hauling plastic like you're building a fortress. You get home and do the math. 4 days of water, maybe a week if you ration and skip washing. Then the bottles are empty and you're staring at a mountain of plastic trash in your living room, this obscene monument to your own short-sightedness. Bottled water are a stopgap, not a system. You needed containers, 5-gallon jugs, 7-gallon aquatainers, food-grade barrels. One $60 barrel holds 40 cases worth of water. It's refillable. It doesn't create this visual accusation haunting you every waking hour. More importantly, it gives you storage capacity when taps are still running, the only window that matters. Aid workers in Beirut, families in Flint, Texans during the 2021 grid collapse, they counted water in gallons of storage capacity and filled those containers the second they suspected trouble. Here's what compounds everything. Even mild dehydration, losing just 2% of body water, drops cognitive function by 20 to 30%. Working memory suffers. Decision-making becomes impaired right when you need it most. So when you're rationing those last bottles and trying to figure out your next move, your brain is operating at reduced capacity, making you more likely to make the next catastrophic mistake. Now, the canned goods aisle. You load up soup, chili, tuna, vegetables. 2 weeks in, you reach for a can of stew. The electric opener is dead. You dig for the manual one you're certain exists. You find nothing. 50 cans of food and no safe way to access them. After Hurricane Maria, relief coordinators reported families with garages full of canned food and 0 manual openers, starving beside calories they couldn't safely access. A $5 P38 military can opener weighs less than your car key. Buy 3. Food you can't open is expensive trash, and the infection starting in that ragged palm cut you got trying to smash the can is about to become your next crisis. People who've lived through actual disasters shop their normal diet first, a month of what they already eat, then backup categories. They buy manual tools early and test everything beforehand. They cook the rice, they open the cans, they make sure it works before there's no room for error. This section is based on practical field survival experience, rather than formal academic sources. Just when you think you've figured out food and water, the mistake that broke most people steps in. Something far more intimate. You grabbed basic first aid, but didn't think about what happens when toilets stop flushing, garbage doesn't get picked up, 4 people can't shower, and the house starts to turn against you. Sanitation becomes the invisible killer. Not violence, not starvation initially, disease, cholera, dysentery, typhoid. These happen when human waste contaminates water supplies, which happens fast when sewage systems fail. The smell hits first. Day 5, it's unpleasant. Day 9, the walls seem to sweat with it. You stop wanting to touch anything or be touched. Odor molecules, actual particles of decomposing waste, coat every surface. During the siege of Sarajevo, survivors didn't talk about ammunition, they talked about the smell. The grinding weight of being dirty, of living in filth, of feeling their humanity drain away because basic dignity was gone. That collapse begins before diseases arrive. Heavy-duty contractor bags become lifelines, the 3-mil ones that don't tear. Bleach becomes worth its weight in gold when infrastructure fails. A camping toilet or 5-gallon bucket with Gamma Seal lid, real bar soap, not just sanitizer that's gone in days. Toilet paper in bulk, feminine products, wipes that work without water. Lime powder works through simple chemistry. It's calcium hydroxide, highly alkaline. And when mixed with waste, it neutralizes ammonia and acidic compounds, while making the environment hostile to bacterial growth. Global health data shows more people die from sanitation-related disease and disasters than from violence. It's just slower and less dramatic, so you didn't think about it. And that cognitive fog from dehydration is only the first invisible killer waiting to compound every mistake you've already made. The next trap: you grabbed fresh bread, milk, chicken, vegetables for the first days. Power fails in 18 hours and you watch $300 rot in real time. The sickly sweet smell of spoiling meat hits day 2. Sour milk, vegetables turning to slime. It makes your house unlivable. You can't discard it outside without attracting animals. You can't keep it inside without gagging. Your failed planning now sits in black bags by the door like an accusation you can't escape. Fresh food belongs only in the first 48 hours with immediate consumption plans. Better, hard cheeses, clarified butter, root vegetables, or shelf-stable options like peanut butter, honey, canned fish, nuts. Every cart item must be stable for weeks without intervention. Time is your enemy and entropy doesn't care about your plans. You see people loading batteries and follow suit. Flashlights, radios, lanterns. You buy hundreds of AAs and Ds, forgetting batteries self-discharge, leak, corrode, and die fast under use. Week 3, you're in total darkness, and every source of light just became trash. Total darkness triggers something primal. Hypervigilance. Adrenaline spikes at every sound. You can't rest properly. Sleep becomes fractured, accumulating sleep debt on top of stress and marginal nutrition. Then you step outside at 3 a.m. to investigate a sound you'd ignored in daylight. Exactly the mistake that gets people killed. You needed hand crank options, hand crank radio and flashlight, solar lights, manual coffee grinder, because caffeine withdrawal creates debilitating headaches and brain fog when you can't afford it. The Amish prove resilience comes from never depending on the grid. Every battery item has a countdown timer. Redundancy isn't 2 flashlights, it's entirely different systems that can't fail for the same reason. Your first aid kit felt responsible when you grabbed it. Basic band-aids, alcohol wipes, aspirin. That's designed for picnics, not a world where hospitals are unreachable. Week 4, you crack a molar on a stone in those beans. Temperature sensitivity becomes constant throbbing, then overwhelming pain. You can't sleep, think, or function. The infection spreads into your jawbone. No dentist, no relief. You're bargaining whether unverified alternatives are safe, whether the abscess will go septic and kill you. Dental abscess can spread bacteria into your bloodstream, septicemia that kills in days without antibiotics. Real medical preparedness means dental emergency kits, effective pain management, cat tourniquets, Israeli bandages, chest seals, quick clot. For anyone on prescriptions, insulin, blood pressure meds, antidepressants, thyroid hormone, you needed 90 days secured in advance through a disaster prep conversation with your doctor. Medical readiness is a strategy built over months, not an impulse purchase. The most seductive mistake is the tactical aisle. Paracord, multi-tools, ferro rods, mylar blankets. The dopamine hit is instant. You feel like the movie hero, ready for cinematic survival. Except you're not ready for 4 weeks of cold, boredom, and grinding routine. You bought the action fantasy, and reality delivered the director's cut of a slow, psychological thriller. That paracord is useless without practice knots. The ferro rod fails without stockpiled tinder and skill. The knife doesn't cook food or fight the soul-crushing monotony of day 11 in the cold with nothing to distract from spiraling thoughts. Survival is mostly lonely and repetitive. Buy boring instead. Extra propane, proven water filters, duct tape, contractor tarps, socks by the dozen because wet feet lead to infections that make you immobile. Thermal layers for actual survival temperatures. A sleeping bag that'll keep you alive. Physical books. Your mind will start eating itself without input. During the Texas freeze, people who thrived had multiple ways to stay warm and mentally occupied. Gear multiplies skill and willpower. 0 skill times expensive gear still equals 0. Here's the framework. Water storage and filtration first. You die of dehydration in 3 days. Then, food you actually eat in stable forms. Starvation is slower, but malnutrition compounds everything. Then, fuel, stove, ventilation to prepare food without carbon monoxide poisoning. Then, sanitation to prevent disease. Then, medical supplies and prescriptions. Then, manual tools. Specialized gear last. For every item, ask, what does this require to be useful? Build redundancy at every layer because single points of failure kill. But there's a final trap tying all others together. You shopped in one place, used one payment method, bought one type of everything. The store ran out of rice. Your card was declined when bank servers overloaded. You have cans but no opener, grains but no fat, protein but no vegetables. Diversity is survival insurance. Multiple stores if possible, cash and cards, balance across food groups and preservation methods. When one system fails, and something always will, you need backups that don't share failure points. The Irish famine killed 1 million, not because Ireland had no food, but because they had one food. When blight destroyed it, diversity wasn't there. You're making that same mistake at household scale. The crisis finds the gaps, always. It finds what you didn't think through, the detail you skipped, the assumption that proved catastrophically wrong. Your job isn't perfection, that's impossible. Your job is making sure gaps aren't wide enough to kill or break you. Not because you didn't care, but because you thought it through. Because you shopped for the world that comes after the registers go dark. The first 72 hours are pure adrenaline. You can survive almost anything for 3 days on willpower. The first 2 weeks are adjustment. Everything after is war against supply exhaustion, disease, boredom, and psychological decay from unrelenting stress.
The cart you filled in frantic minutes will echo through every phase. It'll either support you or haunt you. Survival isn't fundamentally about stuff. It's about systems that keep working when pieces fail. It's about knowledge and adaptability when plans collapse. But when you're in that aisle with your heart hammering and your hands shaking, feeling the weight of what's coming, stuff is all you have time to grab. So grab it right. Don't buy food your body will reject. Don't buy water you can't store. Don't buy cans you can't open or meals you can't prepare safely. Don't ignore sanitation, infection risks, or morale collapse. Don't chase tactical fantasy over function. Don't build dependencies without backups. Don't put all faith in one anything. Now you see the traps, the mistakes that sound harmless in bright fluorescent aisles but turn lethal in dark silence of week 3. Next time your heart hammers and your hands reach for that cart, you'll think different. You'll build infrastructure instead of collections. You'll prioritize function over fantasy. You'll ask hard questions about what each item truly requires. You'll remember that plastic mountains become accusations, that rotting food never leaves memory, that quiet between partners can grow heavier than starvation. Maybe you'll be one of the few who makes it to week 4 with supplies intact, body healthy, relationships functional, and mind sharp enough for good decisions. Not because you bought the most, but because you built systems that survive when everything else falls apart. Infrastructure is the only thing that outlasts the crisis. And infrastructure is what you're building now, in your mind, before your hands ever touch that cart.